When we think about our lives, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the endless responsibilities, worries, and uncertainties that surround us. We plan, we strive, we work hard, yet somehow things still feel chaotic. What we often forget is that the true source of guidance, peace, and success is Allah. When we place Him at the center of our lives, everything else begins to align in ways we cannot imagine. Putting Allah first is not just about performing rituals or following routines. It is about making Him the foundation of every decision, every action, and every intention. When your mornings start with remembrance of Him, when your choices reflect trust in His wisdom, and when your heart seeks His pleasure above all else, you begin to notice a transformation. Life's challenges become lessons, setbacks become growth, and even the smallest victories feel deeply meaningful. Sometimes we chase after things with all our energy, wealth, relationships, status, only to find disappointment. We measure success by what the world applauds, but true success comes when our hearts are connected to Allah. When we put Him first, doors open that we never knew existed. Opportunities arise that we didn't plan for. People come into our lives at just the right time. What seemed impossible suddenly becomes possible. It also brings a peace that the world cannot give. When Allah is first, worry begins to fade because we remember that He is the all-knowing, the all-wise. Decisions that once felt heavy now become lighter, guided by faith rather than fear. Our hearts feel secure even in uncertainty, knowing that the One who created us is guiding us every step of the way. This priority shifts our perspective. We no longer look for validation in material achievements or fleeting praise. Instead, we seek alignment with His will, and in that alignment, everything else naturally falls into place. Relationships deepen with understanding, work becomes purposeful, and even our mistakes become opportunities for growth, because they are seen through the lens of Allah's mercy and guidance. Putting Allah first is not a one-time effort. It is a lifelong journey. It requires patience, sincerity, and constant self-reflection. But the rewards are immeasurable. A life filled with purpose, tranquility, and a clear sense of direction. When Allah is first in your heart, you stop fearing the storms of life because you know He is steering your ship. You begin to trust the process, and slowly you realize that everything else you worried about has started to fall perfectly into place. When we talk about putting Allah first, we are talking about something far deeper than simply performing daily prayers or following rituals. It is about making Him the foundation of every aspect of our lives, the center around which all decisions, actions, and intentions revolve. Think about a building. No matter how beautiful the structure looks, if the foundation is weak, the building cannot stand. Similarly, our lives may seem organized on the outside, but without Allah as the base, everything is fragile, unstable, and vulnerable to collapse when challenges arise. Putting Allah first begins with our heart. It is an internal shift in priority where we consciously remind ourselves that every success, every blessing, and every moment of ease comes from Him. It is recognizing that our abilities and opportunities are ultimately gifts entrusted to us by the Most Merciful. This awareness changes the way we approach life. Instead of rushing through days with a focus on our personal gain or recognition, we start evaluating our choices through the lens of His guidance. Every decision, whether it is personal, professional, or relational, begins with asking ourselves, does this bring me closer to Allah, or does it take me away from Him? When Allah is first, our intentions are purified. We no longer act merely for status, praise, or worldly advantage, even simple actions. A conversation with a friend, an effort at work, or the way we treat family become acts of worship when guided by the desire to seek His pleasure. This transforms mundane routines into moments of purpose. Life is no longer a random series of events. It becomes a meaningful journey where every step is aligned with a higher goal. This prioritization also has practical effects. When we start with Allah in our hearts, clarity begins to emerge in areas where we once felt lost or confused. Priorities become easier to identify, and decisions become less stressful because we are guided by a sense of divine wisdom rather than personal whims or societal pressures. Challenges that once seemed overwhelming start to feel manageable because we approach them with reliance on Him. By making Allah first, we tap into a source of guidance that never fails, a compass that always points toward what is right and beneficial, even if it is not immediately obvious to us. Putting Allah first does not mean neglecting responsibilities or ambitions. On the contrary, it provides a framework for pursuing goals with integrity, patience, and balance. It reshapes our mindset so that achievements are no longer just about worldly success, but also about spiritual growth. When Allah is the foundation, every effort is meaningful, and even mistakes or setbacks are opportunities to learn and return to Him. Ultimately, putting Allah first is about trust, a deep, unwavering trust that as we align our lives with His guidance, everything else will find its proper place. It is a conscious choice to center our lives around the one who knows what is best for us, the one whose wisdom and mercy encompass all things, seen and unseen. When Allah is first in our lives, challenges and setbacks begin to take on a completely different meaning. Life is full of trials, some small, some large, and often they leave us feeling frustrated, defeated, or lost. We struggle to understand why certain things happen, why doors close, why plans fail, or why pain seems unavoidable. But when we place Allah at the center of our lives, these trials are no longer meaningless obstacles. Instead, they become lessons, opportunities, and even gifts in disguise. This perspective is transformative because it shifts the way we experience difficulties. Challenges, when seen through the lens of faith, are not punishments or random misfortunes. They are reminders that our reliance should not be on the fleeting things of this world, but on Allah, who is constant, wise, and all-knowing. Every hardship, no matter how heavy, carries a lesson meant to refine our character, strengthen our patience, and draw us closer to Him. A failure that once felt devastating can become the catalyst for growth. A relationship that struggles can teach empathy, forgiveness, and understanding. A career setback can redirect us toward paths we never imagined, but that ultimately serve our purpose. When Allah is first, every setback is a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. Putting Allah first also changes the way we respond to these challenges. Instead of reacting with frustration, anger, or despair, we begin to respond with patience, trust, and hope. We understand that there is wisdom beyond our comprehension and that His timing is perfect. This trust is not passive. It is an active engagement with life where we do our best, make sincere efforts, and leave the results to Him. When we stop trying to control every outcome and start prioritizing Allah's guidance, we experience a sense of relief and clarity that allows us to face difficulties with resilience and courage further. More when Allah is first, we start to see the hidden benefits in our struggles. We begin noticing personal growth, lessons learned, and inner strength developing even in moments of pain. What once seemed like random suffering transforms into a purposeful journey that shapes us into better individuals. Our trials become opportunities to refine our intentions, purify our hearts, and strengthen our connection with Him. They become the very moments that deepen our faith, reminding us that every hardship carries the potential for mercy and wisdom. Ultimately, challenges no longer feel like threats to our peace, but invitations to grow spiritually, emotionally, and morally. When Allah is first, we stop fearing failure because we understand that true success lies in pleasing Him and trusting His plan. Life's trials become meaningful, manageable, and even rewarding because they are seen as part of a divine design that is far greater than our understanding. This is the true power of putting Allah first. It transforms obstacles into lessons, weaknesses into strengths, and setbacks into opportunities for growth, all while guiding us closer to the peace and purpose that only He can provide. When Allah is placed first in our lives, one of the most profound transformations we experience is the gift of true peace. Life, by its very nature, is filled with uncertainty, pressure, and constant demands. Without a strong anchor, our hearts are easily tossed from one worry to another, from fear to doubt, and from stress to despair. But when Allah becomes the center of our existence, this inner turmoil begins to dissolve. We discover a peace that is not dependent on circumstances, wealth, relationships, or worldly success. It is a peace rooted in the certainty of His presence, the knowledge of His wisdom, and the trust in His divine plan. This peace begins with trust. When Allah is first, we start to understand that we are not alone in our struggles and decisions. He sees what we cannot see, knows what we do not know, and provides what we need, even when we are unaware of it. This awareness allows us to relinquish the heavy burden of trying to control every outcome, every detail, and every aspect of our lives. Instead of living in constant anxiety about what may go wrong, we start to rely on His guidance, knowing that He is the most merciful and the most wise. This trust brings a calmness that cannot be shaken by temporary hardships. Putting Allah first also changes the way we handle stress and fear. When our hearts are connected to Him, challenges no longer feel as frightening or overwhelming. We stop obsessing over the what-ifs and the uncertainties of life. We begin to respond rather than react, to plan rather than panic, and to act with purpose rather than out of desperation. Even in moments of difficulty, there is a quiet reassurance that comes from knowing that everything is in His hands and nothing happens without His permission. This reassurance is a deep source of comfort that cannot be found elsewhere. Furthermore, prioritizing Allah brings a clarity of heart and mind that allows us to focus on what truly matters. We begin to see that worldly pressures, material success, social expectations, or the opinions of others are fleeting and temporary. True contentment does not come from external achievements, but from an inner connection with the One who sustains us and knows our needs. When this connection is strong, distractions lose their power over us, and we experience a profound sense of balance, stability, and harmony in life. This peace also strengthens our relationships, decisions, and overall well-being. When we are centered on Allah, we approach life with patience, compassion, and understanding. We are less reactive, less ease, and more confident in navigating challenges because our source of calm is internal, not dependent on others or on changing circumstances. Even when life seems chaotic, we feel anchored, and this stability radiates into every area of our lives. In essence, putting Allah first transforms the heart into a sanctuary of serenity, a place where worries fade, clarity emerges, and confidence grows. The peace we experience is not passive. It is active faith manifested in trust, patience, and surrender to His will. It is a peace that the world cannot give, and a tranquility that endures even in the storms of life, because it is rooted in the One who is constant, wise, and merciful. When Allah is first in our lives, we begin to see the world differently. So often, we measure our worth by external achievements, praise from others, or material success. We chase recognition, social status, wealth, and validation, believing that they will bring happiness and fulfillment. But these are temporary markers that shift with circumstances, opinions, and time. When we place Allah at the center, our priorities change. We no longer seek approval from the world. Instead, we seek the satisfaction of the One who knows our hearts, intentions, and struggles more intimately than anyone else ever could. This shift in focus is liberating. Life suddenly becomes less about comparison and more about alignment, aligning our actions, choices, and intentions with what pleases Allah. We start asking ourselves questions that truly matter. Is this decision beneficial for my soul? Does this action bring me closer to my Creator? Am I acting with sincerity and integrity, and not an regardless of who is watching? These questions replace the endless cycle of seeking worldly approval, and they guide us toward a life of purpose and meaning. When we stop chasing validation from others, we also stop measuring our worth by temporary standards. Our confidence is no longer fragile, dependent on praise or recognition. Instead, it is rooted in the knowledge that our efforts, when sincerely intended for Allah, are valuable and meaningful, even if unnoticed by anyone else. This freedom allows us to live authentically without fear of judgment, rejection, or societal expectations. We become focused on building character, nurturing our faith, and doing good for the sake of Allah, not for applause or popularity. Placing Allah first also reshapes how we view